There's a lot going on in Ukraine right now, and as you can hear, there's air raid sirens already going off. It's Tuesday evening, and Zelensky has said that he's going to meet Putin in Istanbul on Thursday. But the reason there's an air raid siren happening right now is because Putin doesn't want peace for Ukraine, even though he's promised some sort of truce. So the air raid alerts have finally finished, and it looked like a MiG took off somewhere in the east. And that means that something could land anywhere in Ukraine. That's why the whole country gets notified when something like that takes off. But I want to talk about Thursday, because Thursday is going to be really interesting. And all of my friends that are journalists, most of them in this city, got onto trains last night and headed to Istanbul. And they all said, "Kaylin, are you coming with us? This is the most important thing ever." And I said, no, I'm going to stay here in Ukraine. A lot of people think that Putin's going to show up. He's going to sit directly opposite Zelensky. They're going to glare each other in the eye, and there's going to be a massive showdown. That isn't going to happen because Putin, I guarantee, will not show up to that conference. And there's a few reasons for this. One, he can't control the situation. Putin is already terrified enough to leave his bunker. He was already reluctant to attend the Victory Day parade. Putin can't walk down his own streets without probably being killed by one of his mafia oligarch enemies. Not like Zelensky, who was literally walking down these streets just a few days ago saying hi to strangers. But also, the reason Putin isn't going to show up is because he has no interest in peace. Russia has promised ceasefires endlessly over the last number of decades, and they have broken them sometimes within minutes. Regardless of Putin, there's still so much going on, and it looks like the West, for the first time, maybe ever, is finally getting its shit together, especially over Ukraine. The coalition of the willing might not seem like much right now, but it's actually a huge deal. To have Britain, France, and to have America back them on their deal is a huge step forward. And Putin has been doing all of this and saying and pretending that he wants peace because he knows that Trump is falling for it. Trump is absolutely obsessed with Putin. Trump thinks that Putin genuinely likes him. If you listen to the interview with Steve Witkoff, he says that he almost broke down in tears of joy and happiness when Putin commissioned a beautiful painting of Donald Trump. This is what we're dealing with.
President Putin had commissioned a beautiful portrait of President Trump, which I brought home and delivered to him. It's been reported in the paper, but it was such a gracious moment, and he was clearly touched by it.
And Trump genuinely believes that Putin wants peace, actually believes that Putin wants him on his side as his friend. But what Trump is slowly realizing is that Putin doesn't care about America, Putin doesn't care about peace, and Putin just wants Ukraine. J.D. Vance tweeted something very, very interesting a few days ago, basically reiterating that, saying, you know what, I think Putin wants a bit much. I think Putin wants the whole of Ukraine, which is very obvious to us, but actually quite a good step forward for MAGA. And all of this feels like baby steps right now. It's baby steps, slowly holding Trump's hand and saying, come on, we can do it, we can show you what Putin really is, we can show you what Russia really is. That's kind of what this feels like right now. But it seems to be working. And Trump has actually hinted in the last few hours that he might attend the peace talk in Istanbul. And that will be very interesting, because what will happen is Zelensky will be sitting there, Trump will be sitting there, and there'll be a seat empty, a seat that Putin should have been in. And at that moment, Trump might look at Zelensky and go, maybe you were right. There's also another reason that Putin is definitely not going to do a ceasefire. And it's kind of overlooked in the media, but it's what will happen to the soldiers on the front line for those 30 days. Well, they'll probably go home. And if they go home, things are going to be pretty disastrous. They're not going to want to go back. They're going to start protesting and they're going to start fighting. And that's already been happening. If you look at this video that was posted a few days ago, it shows a Russian soldier arriving back at his family home, drunk on drugs, filled with PTSD, and he burns the house down.
29 октября 2024 года наш дом сгорел, пострадал от рук собственного мужа. Был в наркотическом опьянении.
This would happen on a massive, massive scale, and that would cause logistical nightmares within the Russian army. The only way that this continues is with a continuous, constant wave of meat. That is how Putin fights his wars. And don't forget, protest is illegal in Russia, but it isn't ineffective. And this has also happened before. One of the reasons that Russia pulled out of Afghanistan was because of the mothers of Russia who protested about the losses, about their sons who had died. And even though protest is illegal in Russia, even though it's outlawed, and even though most Russians are pretty indifferent to this war, as soon as they start protesting, things start falling apart. Their economy is already in the drain. So they cannot afford a ceasefire. It's not possible for Russia. And it's strange being here at a time like this because it feels like a pause. It feels like no man's land to a certain extent. No one really knows what's going to happen next. And that's also part of Putin's tactics. It's about keeping everyone on pause, in the unknown. It's always about small delays. Okay, we're going to reject your ceasefire for tonight, but maybe on Thursday we'll have conversations. And then on Thursday he's going to say, maybe we should have further peace talks next Thursday. And this is going to go on and on and on until Trump loses his patience, until the rest of the West really realizes just what's at stake. But I also just wanted to show that Ukraine is still holding on strong. Things are still beautiful in this country and people still believe in victory. People jogging behind me, people having a good time, people still believing in good and victory. And I still think that's possible if the West isn't too late in waking up, which it doesn't seem like it will. The coalition of the willing and NATO coming together and European countries finally realizing what the Russian threat is might just turn the tide, because Russia only understands one language, and that isn't diplomacy, and that isn't conversation, and that's deterrence. And not just deterrence, but deterrence with determination to actually use it.